The Denver Broncos have had some sloppy play, admittingly, through the last 2 weeks, but I believe the Denver Broncos can turn it around. And if you want the Broncos to turn it around, we're talking about penalties. We're talking about play calling. We're talking about quarterback play. Do me a favor and hit that thumbs up icon, because coming up in today's episode, I'm going to tell you that if the Broncos clean up this sloppy play, they have some serious good news on the horizon based off of their next 4 2025 opponents. What's up, Broncos country? Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. And like I said, coming up on today's episode, I'm going to tell you why the Broncos have the advantage in their next 4 weeks. Not every single game, because if you notice, week 5 against the Eagles, it's going to be a very tough matchup to especially going into Philadelphia to win that game. But there is good news on the horizon in week 4, week 6, and week 7, respectively, based off of some defensive statistics and based off of some offensive statistics, mainly with the quarterbacks. The odds are currently in the Denver Broncos' favors. According to Vegas betting lines, they are favored in 3 out of the next 4 games. The only game that they are not favored in is, of course, that Week 5 matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, who, admittingly, don't look nearly as buttoned up as they should, trailing the Los Angeles Rams last week at 1 point, 26-7. But then, of course, the Eagles did what the Eagles do, and they came back and won that game. Let's focus in on one game at a time, though, right? Let's backtrack to this week. Week 4 against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals come into Mile High, so the next road game where the Broncos are 1-0 this season. They were going to take on one of the very best and brightest young quarterbacks in the National Football League against Joe Burrow. However, if you've been keeping up with injury news, Joe Burrow is out for 3 months with a toe injury, meaning the Cincinnati Bengals, with an already porous defense and bad offensive line, are touting out Jake Browning. I'm sure you've heard that name multiple times throughout your history of watching the NFL. And if we just take a look at his first start this season against the Minnesota Vikings, because he did come into the game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but his first start of the 2025 season against the Vikings was a lot to be desired. He did complete 70% of his throws, but for only 140 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and a passer rating of 63.8. Not so good, if you ask me. Now he comes into Mile High with that ruckus crowd and the elevation change and this Broncos defense, and you expect them to get the job done? Let's just take a brief pause here for a moment and note that the Minnesota Vikings, not 2 weeks ago on Sunday Night Football, went up against the Atlanta Falcons and looked like a complete dumpster fire. Then they take on the Cincinnati Bengals and they win 48-10. So it looks like this is a get-right game for the Denver Broncos. And I get it. Not every game is predicted based off of the odds, because we were favored against the Indianapolis Colts, and look how that turned out. So I understand your skepticism. But the point remains solid, like you're reading at the bottom of this screen. The next 4 games are so incredibly important, not just for the sake of the momentum, but for the sake of the rest of the season, because right now, the AFC West is firmly in place of the LA Chargers, who I still believe the Broncos should have beat. But we got a 3-way tie right now with the Chiefs and the Raiders. And the Chiefs, I think we can all agree, are not going to be an under 500 team. So you have to go 3-1 at bare minimum in these next 4 games. And I still believe that there's enough talent on this team to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. They have no passing game right now. And the Jets, worst team on paper, and the Giants, who we'll talk about here in just a little bit, are touting out now a rookie quarterback. So this is the most important 4-game stretch, at least for the foreseeable future right now, for the Denver Broncos. And I get it, they're the next 4, so they have to be the most important. But my point remains the same. You have 3 very winnable football games that you have to get a W in. So what will the Broncos' record be for the next 4 games? I'm saying 3-1. I think it'll be a close game against Philadelphia Eagles, maybe they come out with a loss. And even if they do, if you go 3-1 in the next 4, you are 4-3 heading into week 8, just before the trade deadline. Now, coming up, I'm going to tell you some good quarterback news, not only for the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix, but for what they are facing in some quarterback news, mainly week 6 and week 7. Now, before I get to that, I have to tell you about today's presenting sponsor, our friends over at PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this football season on PrizePicks, where it is good to be right. It is super simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. You can join millions of users and sign up today. How does it work? Well, good news for you. I picked a little 3-legger for you for PrizePicks. Jalen Hurts with the max discount play. Obviously, he's going to get more than half a passing yard. Courtland Sutton on the more of the receiving yards against this bad Cincinnati Bengals defense. And then Will Lutz, I also think, will have more than 1.5 field goals made. Yours can look just like this, but it could also look very different from mine. All you have to do is download the PrizePicks app and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Let's talk quarterbacks. The Bengals are touting out Jake Browning, like we talked about. The Eagles have Jalen Hurts, who is a dual-threat quarterback and has big playmaking ability, but has seemingly struggled to have a consistent passing game so far in 2025. Did you know the Philadelphia Eagles, I think, are dead last, correct me if I'm wrong, producer Alper, in passing yards per game? I mean, they just don't have a consistent passing attack. They run the ball very efficiently. Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, who can squat 600 pounds, absolutely. Justin Fields, who is now coming off of an injury after they played Tyrod Taylor. Justin Fields is another player similar to Jalen Hurts who can use his legs really, really well, but maybe not as prolific of a passer inside the pocket. And now the Giants, who we just found out today, are rolling out rookie Jaxson Dart because Russell Wilson, who we know very well, just wasn't cutting it. Shocker. So now the Giants are rolling out rookie Jaxson Dart to try to save that season and head coach Brian Daboll's job. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for the Broncos to really set the tone. You already beat one rookie quarterback, the first overall pick in Cam Ward. You now have the opportunity to do the exact same thing. Put the pressure on this kid. And I'll be the first one to admit, even though it was the preseason, there was a lot of stuff from Jaxson Dart that I saw on tape watching today that I liked. His pocket manipulation is very, very good. Decision-making and accuracy right now, I mean, even though his accuracy in the preseason was great, you're going up against fourth-string players, so you don't really know. The one thing that I will say he needs to, improve upon is he's not great against the blitz, and that's expected. He's a rookie. But he also needs to learn how to go through his progressions more smoothly. But his pocket manipulation, the ability to slide up, slide left, slide right, and, just kind of make things happen to try and get that ball out without having to take off and run seemed to be pretty good on tape. But like I said, the Broncos have the offensive take two. The Broncos have the offensive advantage in 3 of the next 4 games as well. This is a get-right game for Bo. You mean to tell me that they don't have the advantage at home against Jake Browning? Who would you rather have? Just quarterback for quarterback. Bo Nix or Jake Browning? I'll take Bo. Bo Nix or Justin Fields? I'll take Bo. Bo Nix or Jaxson Dart? I'll take Bo. And I believe the Broncos' rushing attack is also better than the Bengals, than the Jets, than the Giants. So let's just talk about Bo for a second, because these numbers, they're not good. Not good. They're not awful. I wouldn't look at this and go, these are backup quarterback numbers. But for what we expected Bo to be, they're not good enough. I'm not blaming all of the problems on Bo Nix. Clearly, they're not all on Bo Nix. The Broncos have had way too many penalties, haven't had a solid, consistent rushing attack in the first half of games. But Bo has to be better in intermittent passing. Even other Broncos media outlets, not just me, have also noted that Bo clearly struggles when trying to push the ball down the field. Behind the line of scrimmage, Bo's great. So those short, quick little screens, those swing passes out into the flat, he's awesome. Between 0 and 10 yards, he's great. This was just against the Chargers, by the way. But then 10-plus yards, 3 of 9. And remember, you don't have to be super close to 100% on those 10-plus yards, but you should be as close to 50% or higher as possible. And 3 of 9 is 33%. It's not nearly good enough. Highlighted, I think, by his passing chart against the Chargers. A lot of green near the line of scrimmage and a ton of missed throws downfield. I think we can all agree right now that there is one problem with Bo. It's that deep ball accuracy. Marvin Mims shouldn't have slowed down his route. I get it. Marvin Mims doesn't look nearly as buttoned up as we thought he would. I get it. But the throw down the field, down the sideline to Courtland Sutton, he just missed. There are clear areas, and we've talked about them on the channel, that Bo Nix needs to get better at. I totally understand the criticism. I'm not ready to punt on Bo Nix. I'm not ready to say he's in a slump. I'm not ready to say he's not the quarterback of the future. I think that's incredibly too far forward. It's a complete jump. We don't need to go there already. But I will say this. The Denver Broncos are so frustrating right now because they've only lost the last 2 games by a combined 4 points. They lost by 1 on a game-losing field goal to the Indianapolis Colts. They lost by a game, they were tied, game-losing field goal to the Los Angeles Chargers. 2 losses, 4 points. That leads me to believe that this team is not getting blown out, right? Well, duh. It leads me to believe that this team is so close to being a dominant force. They're shooting themselves in the foot. With the penalties, some play calling issues, it's just not quite as buttoned up as we want. And that's why you need to clean up the sloppy play. And brings us back to the beginning of the video. Smash that thumbs up button if you want them to clean up the sloppy play. We are a few plays here and a few plays there for being at the very top of the AFC West. I think the next 4 games, you will see a much more buttoned up Denver Broncos team led by one of the brightest in the NFL, Sean Payton. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. A reminder to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Like today's video. And as always, Mile High Salute. Be cool.